Crossroads, Hagerstown. Story 1. The Walk Back In. The doors didn't swing open like they did in movies. They buzzed, they clicked, they sighed. And then they let him go. Reggie Cole stood on the concrete outside the Washington County Detention Center with a plastic bag in his hand, a folded packet of paperwork, and the kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful. The kind that feels like the world has paused, just long enough to decide what it's going to do to you next. The air was cold in that early morning way, with a weak sun trying to rise over Hagerstown. The sky was a pale gray blue, like it couldn't commit to being day yet. Reggie took a breath, but even that didn't feel like his. The air tasted different outside. Less bleach, less metal, less cooked food you didn't choose. He looked down at the bag. Phone, wallet, a worn hoodie he'd come in with 3 years ago. 3 years. Not a lifetime, not nothing. Long enough for a man to be forgotten. Long enough for a town to rearrange itself around your absence. He stepped forward and felt the ground under him shift, from prison property to city property. Like crossing that invisible line meant something bigger than it should. He walked to the bus stop. Nobody was waiting. No mother, no cousin, no old friend leaning against a car with the engine running. He hadn't expected a crowd. But he'd expected something. A sign that he still existed to somebody besides the state of Maryland. The bus came with a long groan, kneeling down like an exhausted animal. Reggie climbed in, dropped a few wrinkled dollars into the slot, and took a seat in the back out of habit. The same habit that made him sit with his back to the wall. The same habit that made him scan faces like each one might be trouble. The driver didn't look at him twice. To the driver, Reggie was just another man, with tired eyes and a plastic bag. The bus rolled forward. Hagerstown rolled past the window like a memory he couldn't quite trust. He watched the streets he knew, but they didn't feel the way he remembered. Certain corners looked cleaner, brighter, painted over. A few stores had new signs, new names. Others were boarded up, the way they always had been, but the boards looked fresher, like the town was trying to decide whether it was giving up or starting over. Reggie leaned his head back, and for a moment he let his eyes close. He told himself one thing, quiet as a prayer. Just don't go back to what you were. But prayers don't always get answered in places like this. When he got off the bus, he stood there for a second, blinking at the daylight like he'd been underground. He was near the edges of downtown, where Hagerstown couldn't decide whether it wanted to be a city or a fading postcard. His mother lived 10 blocks away. 10 blocks didn't sound like much until you had 3 years of weight on your shoulders and nowhere else to go. As he walked, he passed a mural on the side of a building. Bright colors, smiling faces, words like community and hope in big, clean letters. He stared at it longer than he meant to. In his head, he heard his old cellmate's voice. They paint over rot like that fixes it. The closer he got to his mother's street, the more his chest tightened. Not fear exactly. Something like guilt, mixed with the stubborn, childish hope that maybe she'd open the door and be the same woman she used to be. Tired but warm, annoyed but present, a mother. The house looked smaller than he remembered. Or maybe he was just bigger now in a different way. Not physically, he'd lost weight inside, but spiritually. Like prison had stretched him thin and made him taller in all the wrong places. He walked up the steps. He knocked. Nothing. He knocked again, harder. A curtain moved behind the window. Then the door opened halfway. His mother stood there like she had been standing there for years. Lena Cole wore a housecoat, her hair wrapped, her eyes sharp and tired. She didn't smile, she didn't gasp, she didn't cry. She looked at him like he was a bill she didn't want to pay. "Hey, Ma," Reggie said, and his voice came out smaller than he wanted it to. Her eyes flicked down to the plastic bag, then back to his face. "You skinny," she said, like that was the only thing worth mentioning. "Food ain't great in there." She made a sound that might have been a laugh if it didn't carry so much bitterness. "You hungry now?" Reggie swallowed. "Yeah," he admitted, "I'm hungry." She opened the door the rest of the way, but didn't step aside like she was welcoming him. She stepped aside like she was letting something in she couldn't stop. He walked in. The house smelled the same. Fried onions, fabric softener, old wood. Familiar, but not comforting. Like the scent of a childhood home after a fight. He stood in the living room, unsure where to put himself. His mother shut the door. The click echoed. She didn't hug him. She didn't touch him at all. "You got somewhere to be?" she asked. "No." "You got a plan?" He hesitated. He had rehearsed this. In his head, in a cell, in the nights where he stared at the ceiling and promised himself he'd do it right. But now his plan felt like paper in the rain. "I'm gonna work," he said. "Get a job. Stay out of the way." Lena stared at him. "Stay out the way," she repeated, like the words tasted funny. Reggie shifted. "I mean it." She walked past him toward the kitchen. "Sit down," she said, not kindly, not cruelly, just flat. He sat. He listened to her moving around, cabinets opening, a plate clinking. And in the silence between sounds, he realized something. His mother had kept living without him. She had done 3 years on the outside, while he did 3 years inside. And she hadn't forgiven him for what his choices did to her life. Not yet. Maybe not ever. When she placed the plate in front of him, he looked up like he was about to say thank you. She didn't let him. "I ain't doing no celebrating," she said. "This ain't that." "I know," he said quietly. She stood across the kitchen, arms crossed, watching him eat like she was measuring the distance between the man she raised and the man who came back. "You going back out there?" she asked. Reggie stopped chewing. "What you mean?" "You know what I mean," Lena said. "You going back to them boys, them corners, that running." "No," Reggie said fast. Too fast. Like the word was trying to convince them both. Lena's eyes narrowed. "'Cause if you do," she said, "you can't do it from here." His throat tightened. "I'm not," he said again, slower. "I'm done." Lena looked away like she didn't believe in done. Then she pointed toward the couch in the living room. "You can sleep out there," she said. "You get 1 week. 1. After that, you either got work or you got somewhere else." Reggie nodded. 1 week. It wasn't love. But it was shelter. And right then, shelter felt like mercy. That afternoon, Reggie walked. He didn't have money, not real money, just a few dollars and a bus pass. He walked because walking made him feel like he was moving forward. He went toward the warehouse district, not because he wanted trouble, because he wanted to see. He wanted to know if the streets remembered him. The closer he got, the more wrong it looked. There were new fences, new signs. Buildings he remembered as dead shells now had banners that said, "Coming soon," and "Luxury Lofts," and "Artisan Marketplace." Like somebody had decided the best way to fix a place was to rename it. Reggie stood on a corner where he used to meet his runner, where he used to hand off bundles like it was nothing. That corner had a new coffee shop now. A coffee shop. The windows were clean, the inside bright. People sat at small tables with laptops, sipping things that looked too expensive to be real. Reggie stared at it, feeling like he was looking at a joke made at his expense. Then he saw them. Not the coffee shop people. The other ones. Across the street near an alley, 3 young dudes stood in a loose triangle, hoodies up, hands in pockets, their eyes flicking around in quick, nervous angles. They weren't doing it clean. They weren't doing it smart. They were doing it like children playing gangster, and they were standing on his old corner. Reggie watched as a car pulled up. One of the young dudes leaned in. Money changed hands. Something small passed back. The car drove off. The kid tucked the cash away like he was proud. Reggie felt something old twitch in his chest. Not temptation. Something worse. Ownership. He hated that feeling. He hated that it was still in him. One of the young dudes looked up and caught Reggie staring. The kid's eyes narrowed. He took a step forward, like he wanted to prove something. Reggie didn't move. He didn't flinch. He just stared back with the calm that comes from having already survived real danger. The kid hesitated. Then he recognized something. Not Reggie's face, but Reggie's posture. The way he held himself. The way he didn't need to shout to be heard. The kid's mouth tightened. He backed up. Reggie turned and walked away without saying a word, because he was trying to be new. And the old him was always one sentence away. The next morning, Reggie woke up before dawn on his mother's couch. He lay there staring at the ceiling. The house was quiet, except for the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. He thought about the young dealers, thought about the coffee shop, thought about the way Hagerstown was changing, and he thought about his mother's voice. 1 week. Reggie sat up, rubbed his face, and reached for his paperwork. One of the papers was a re-entry services flyer. Job placement, housing assistance, counseling, all the usual. He'd heard about all this inside. Inside, everything sounded possible. Outside, it sounded like a line. He pulled on his hoodie and stepped out into the cold again. He made his way to the re-entry office. The waiting room was filled with men like him, men trying to look hopeful, men trying not to look desperate. A woman at the desk gave him a clipboard. He filled out forms. Name, date of birth, charge, release date. Under skills, he hesitated. What skills did he have? He could package product in under 30 seconds. He could memorize plates. He could read a room like a book. He could talk people into trusting him. None of that belonged on paper. He wrote, landscaping, general labor, warehouse. The woman called him back. She was polite in the way people are polite when they don't want to get emotionally involved. We can refer you to a few places, she said. A lot of employers don't like, you know. She didn't say felony. She didn't say heroin. She didn't say prison. But Reggie heard all of it. Whatever you got, he said. She slid him a card. Whitaker Grounds and Landscaping. Address. Phone number. The name Whitaker made something shift in his mind, but he didn't place it yet. He nodded. Thank you. The woman looked at him, and for a moment her face softened. Stay busy, she said quietly. That's how you make it. Reggie pocketed the card. He left. Whitaker Grounds and Landscaping sat on the edge of town, near where the nicer homes began to cluster, and the sidewalks looked newer. Reggie walked into the lot. A few men were already there, leaning against trucks, sipping coffee from gas station cups. Most of them looked like they'd lived hard. Some had tattoos crawling up their necks. One man looked Reggie up and down. What you here for? He asked. Work, Reggie said. The man snorted. Everybody here for work. Reggie walked toward the office. Inside, the smell was different. Clean paper, air freshener, fresh paint. Like somebody cared about this building. A receptionist looked up. Yes? I'm here about a job, Reggie said. Re-entry referral. The receptionist's eyes flicked to his face, then to his hands, then back up. Fill this out, she said, sliding a form across. Reggie filled it out fast. The receptionist disappeared into the back. A few minutes later, a man stepped out. White, mid-50s, crisp polo shirt, clean haircut. The kind of man who looked like he belonged on a golf course, even standing in a landscaping office. Reginald Cole, he said. Yeah. The man extended his hand. I'm Garrett Whitaker. Reggie shook his hand. Garrett's handshake was firm, practiced. He looked Reggie in the eye like he was assessing a piece of equipment. Come on, Garrett said. Let's talk. They went into a small office. Garrett sat behind a desk. He gestured for Reggie to sit. I'm going to be straight with you, Garrett said. We get people sent to us all the time. Some work out, some don't. I run a business. I don't run a charity. I understand, Reggie said. Garrett looked at the form. You got experience? I worked landscaping before, Reggie lied a little. He had done labor, sure, not professionally, not like this. but he could learn. Garrett leaned back. You can pass a drug test? Reggie held his gaze. Yes. Garrett studied him for a long moment. All right, Garrett said. I'll give you a chance. You show up, you work hard, you don't bring drama, you follow instructions. You do that, you'll get paid, and you'll stay employed. Reggie nodded. I can do that. Garrett stood. Good, he said. Start tomorrow, 6 a.m. Don't be late. Reggie stood too, trying not to look relieved. Thank you. Garrett waved it off. Don't thank me, he said. Earn it. Reggie walked out. The sun hit his face, and for the first time since he'd stepped out of the jail, he felt something almost like hope. The first week of work was simple. Hard. But simple. Mowers, hedge trimmers, mulch, sweat. The crew didn't talk much to Reggie at first. They watched him, waited for him to slip. But Reggie didn't slip. He showed up early. He worked. He kept his head down. And at the end of each day, he went back to his mother's couch with his body aching in a way that felt honest. On Friday afternoon, the crew pulled into a gated neighborhood near Beaver Creek. Big houses, clean lawns, quiet streets that smelled like money and sprinklers. Reggie stepped out of the truck and stared at one of the homes. He recognized it. Not because he'd been inside, because he'd been outside. Years ago, he delivered to a guy who lived 2 streets over, a man with a family who thought nobody could see what he was doing. Reggie swallowed and turned away. Garrett Whitaker came by later, walking the property with a clipboard, talking about shrubs like they mattered more than human lives. One of the crew members, a guy named Shane, looked at Reggie and smirked. You ever been out here before? Shane asked. Reggie kept raking. Not like this, he said. Shane chuckled. Yeah, not like this. The way Shane said it made Reggie's neck prickle. Reggie looked up. Shane's eyes were too bright, too knowing. You from around here? Shane asked. Yeah, Reggie said. Where at? Reggie hesitated. West End. Shane nodded slowly, like that answered something he hadn't asked out loud. He leaned closer. You used to run with them boys off Duel, right? Shane said casually, like he was talking about sports. Reggie kept his face neutral. Nah. Shane smiled. Aight, Shane said, dragging the word out. Just asking. But Reggie knew. Shane knew. And knowledge spreads in a town like Hagerstown the way smoke spreads. Fast, quiet, impossible to stop once it starts. That night, Reggie got home, and his mother was sitting at the kitchen table, the TV off, the room too quiet. He stopped. What's wrong? He asked. Lena looked up at him. You working? She said. Yeah. She nodded slowly. Then she said, don't make me regret letting you back in this house. Reggie swallowed. I'm not, he promised. But promises were fragile, and the town was testing him already. The call came on a Tuesday. Reggie was halfway through lunch, sitting on the tailgate of a truck, eating a sandwich with hands still dirty from soil. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He stared at it, then answered. Hello? A familiar voice came through, smooth and tired. Reginald Cole. Reggie's stomach dropped. Who is this? He asked, though he already knew. Detective Marcus Hale, the voice said. Hagerstown PD. Reggie stood up so fast he almost dropped his sandwich. The crew glanced over. Reggie walked away from them, toward the side of the building. What do you want? Reggie said. Detective Hale's voice stayed calm. I want to talk, Hale said. Not here. Somewhere private. Reggie's heart hammered. I ain't doing nothing, he said quickly. I didn't say you were, Hale replied. I said I want to talk. Reggie clenched his jaw. You already talked to me, he said, in court. Hale sighed like you'd heard that line before. You got a minute after work? Hale asked. Reggie stared at the parking lot, at the trucks, at the crew that didn't know how close he was to falling back into trouble just by answering a phone call. "I'm busy," Reggie said. "You're not too busy for this," Hale replied. "It's important." Reggie swallowed. "What is it?" Hale paused. Then said, "The warehouse operation is getting sloppy. We got overdoses. We got teenagers dying. We got a supply line moving through the city like it owns the place." Reggie's throat tightened. "That ain't my problem," he said, but his voice wasn't strong. Hale's tone hardened slightly. "It becomes your problem when your cousin ends up in a body bag, or when you end up back inside, or when your mother has to bury someone she loves." Reggie went cold. "How you know about my cousin?" Reggie snapped. Hale didn't answer directly. "I know a lot," Hale said. "Meet me at the diner off Duel. 7 tonight." Reggie's hands trembled. "I ain't no snitch," he said. Hale's voice dropped lower. "Reginald," he said, "you're not a player anymore. You're a man on parole with a target on his back. I'm offering you a way to survive." The line went dead. Reggie stared at the phone. His breathing was shallow. He looked back toward the crew. Shane was watching him. Not openly, but watching. Reggie put the phone in his pocket and forced himself to walk back like nothing had happened. But everything had happened. That night, Reggie sat in the diner booth across from Detective Marcus Hale. The diner smelled like grease and coffee and old conversations. The kind of place where people talked quietly because they didn't trust the walls not to listen. Hale wore plain clothes, a dark jacket, no badge out. But he didn't need the badge. His eyes carried authority like it was permanent. He looked at Reggie across the table. Reggie didn't touch the menu. "I didn't come here to be your friend," Reggie said. Hale nodded. "I didn't ask you to," Hale replied. Reggie stared at him. "You ruined my life," Reggie said. Hale didn't flinch. "No," Hale said. "You ruined your life. I just documented it." Reggie's jaw tightened. He wanted to jump across the table. But prison teaches patience. Hale leaned forward. "I'm going to be straight," Hale said. "We're trying to get to L Train." Reggie's eyes narrowed. "Leonard?" Reggie said. Hale watched his reaction. "So you know him," Hale said. "Everybody know him," Reggie replied. Hale nodded. "We can't get close," Hale said. "He's insulated. Runners, middlemen, no direct ties. But I know he's using that warehouse. I know product is moving through it. And I know you still have contacts." Reggie laughed, bitter. "You want me to snitch? I want you to help," Hale said. "There's a difference," Reggie snapped. Hale sighed, rubbing his face like a man who'd carried too much for too long. "I don't care what word you use," Hale said. "I care about bodies, and right now, bodies are stacking." Reggie looked down at the table. He thought about the kid dealers on his old corner. He thought about the mural that said, "Hope." He thought about his mother's tired face. "What you offering?" Reggie asked quietly. Hale's eyes sharpened. "Protection," Hale said. "A little breathing room, help with housing, help keeping your parole officer off your neck. Maybe even a chance at clearing some of your record down the road." Reggie's mouth went dry. "And if I say no?" he asked. Hale leaned back. "Then you walk out of here," Hale said, "and you go back to your life. But understand something. You're back in town, and people are watching. Old enemies, new crews, and you're working for Garrett Whitaker. That's a name that travels." Reggie froze. "You know my boss?" Hale's expression didn't change. "Everybody knows the Whitakers," Hale said, "and not everybody likes seeing certain people working close to their world." Reggie's heart thumped. That wasn't a warning. That was a fact. He sat back, breathing slow. "I ain't trying to die," he said. Hale nodded. "Then choose smart," Hale said. "You want survival or redemption? Because in this town, sometimes you don't get both." Reggie stared at him. He didn't answer. Not yet. He left the diner with Hale's words stuck to his skin like sweat. 2 days later, Reggie's mother didn't come home from work. It was past 8, then 9, then 10. Reggie sat on the couch, watching the phone like it might explain something. At 10:34, the phone rang. Reggie answered so fast his voice cracked. "Hello?" A woman's voice, unfamiliar. "Is this Reginald Cole?" she asked. "Yes," Reggie said. "Where's my mother?" The woman paused. "This is Washington County Hospital," she said. "Your mother was brought in. She's stable, but she had an incident." Reggie stood up, panic snapping through him. "What happened?" he demanded. "She was assaulted," the woman said carefully. "She has bruising. She's conscious, but we need you to come in." Reggie's mind went blank for half a second. Then rage rushed in like fire. "Assaulted," Reggie repeated, voice shaking. "By who?" "I don't have that information," the woman said. "Please come to the hospital." Reggie didn't remember leaving the house. He didn't remember the drive. He only remembered the hospital lights and the smell of disinfectant and the sight of his mother in a bed, her lips split, a bruise dark on her cheek. Lena looked at him with eyes that had always been hard, but now looked scared. "Ma," Reggie said, and his voice broke. She turned her face slightly, ashamed. "Some boys," she whispered, "on the way from the bus stop." Reggie's hands clenched. "What boys?" he demanded. Lena swallowed, eyes glistening. They said, "Tell your son we remember," she whispered. Reggie went still. The room tilted. He understood. This wasn't random. This was a message. The town wasn't just watching him. It was touching what he loved. Reggie turned away from his mother's bed, breathing hard, fighting the urge to destroy something. Lena grabbed his wrist weakly. "Don't," she whispered. Reggie looked at her. Her eyes pleaded. "Don't go back," she said. "Don't make it worse." Reggie swallowed. His throat felt like gravel. "I gotta do something," he whispered. Lena squeezed his wrist. "Do something smart," she said. "For once." Reggie stood there, shaking. Survival. Redemption. Hale's words returned like a curse. Reggie left the hospital and sat in his car in the parking lot, fists on the steering wheel. He stared out at the city lights of Hagerstown, and he made a decision. The next day, Reggie met Detective Hale again. Not at the diner. At the edge of a park, early morning, mist rising off the grass. Hale stood by his car, hands in his pockets, looking like he'd been waiting. Reggie walked up with eyes that were no longer uncertain. Hale took one look at him and knew. "Something happened," Hale said. Reggie's jaw tightened. "You were right," Reggie said. "People watching." Hale nodded slowly. "What happened?" he asked. Reggie hesitated, then said, "My mother got jumped." Hale's face hardened. "I'm sorry," Hale said. He sounded like you meant it. Reggie let out a bitter laugh. "You sorry," he said, "but that don't fix it." Hale stepped closer. "Do you know who?" Hale asked. Reggie shook his head. "But I know why," Reggie said. Hale held his gaze. "All right," Hale said. "Then talk to me." Reggie took a breath. "I know where the warehouse is," Reggie said. "I know the routes, I know the times, and I know who's getting sloppy." Hale's eyes narrowed. "You can get me L-Train?" Hale asked. Reggie stared out at the park, at the empty swings, at the quiet morning. "I can get you close," Reggie said. Hale nodded. "That's enough," Hale said. "We do this careful, you understand? You don't play hero. You don't go rogue." Reggie's eyes flashed. "You protect my mother," Reggie said. "That's the deal." Hale didn't hesitate. "I will," Hale said. "But you have to understand, protection ain't perfect." Reggie leaned in. "Perfect or not," he said, "you do it, or I walk." Hale held his gaze. "All right," Hale said. "We'll do it." Reggie exhaled slowly. And in that moment, he wasn't sure if he'd chosen redemption or just chosen a smarter kind of survival. Weeks passed. Reggie worked during the day. He listened at night. He moved like a man balancing on a wire. He watched Tyrell carefully, watched the way his cousin's eyes darted when his phone buzzed. He watched Shane at work, the way Shane joked too much, asked too many questions, tried to see if Reggie was still connected. Reggie didn't confront. He didn't accuse. He just watched. And he waited for the right moment. The moment came on a Thursday. Garrett Whitaker called everyone into the lot. "We got a big job," Garrett said. "Downtown property, new development. We're prepping the exterior for inspection." Reggie's stomach tightened. Downtown property. Warehouse district. Garrett didn't say warehouse, but Reggie heard it. They drove out. When they arrived, Reggie's pulse quickened. The property was near the old warehouse, close enough to see the new fences, the banners, and close enough for Reggie to notice something else. A black SUV parked behind the building. Not a Whitaker truck. Not a resident. And not a car you leave in plain sight unless you want to be seen. Reggie felt the blood drain from his face, because he recognized the SUV. He'd seen it before. Years ago. It belonged to one of L Train's men. Reggie turned his head slowly. Shane was watching him again. But this time, Shane wasn't smirking. This time, Shane looked nervous. Reggie understood in a flash. Shane wasn't just a worker. Shane was a watcher. A messenger. Maybe even the one who set up his mother. Reggie's hands clenched. His vision narrowed. The old Reggie surged up like an animal. He took a breath and forced it down. Do something smart. For once. He pulled his phone out, pretending to check a message. He typed one word to the number Detective Hale gave him. Now. Then he slipped the phone back in his pocket. They worked. Reggie kept his face neutral. But inside, everything was moving. Minutes later, the sound of sirens cut through the air. Faint at first, then louder, closer. Shane froze. Garrett looked up, confused. "What the hell?" Garrett started. Then the black SUV behind the building roared to life. The driver tried to peel out. But police cruisers appeared from both ends of the street, like they'd been waiting. Hagerstown PD County. Unmarked units. The street filled with blue lights. People scattered. Shane bolted. Reggie didn't. Shane ran toward the alley. Two officers chased. Shane slipped on gravel, hit the ground hard. They cuffed him. Garrett Whitaker stood in the open, pale, staring like the world had just shown him something he didn't want to see. Detective Hale stepped out of an unmarked car and walked toward Reggie. Their eyes met. Hale didn't smile. He just nodded, small and grim. Reggie's chest heaved. He felt relief. He felt terror. He felt like the ground was crumbling and solid at the same time. The black SUV's doors opened. Two men were dragged out. Not L Train, not the king, but soldiers. And soldiers lead to the king. Hale walked close to Reggie, voice low. "Good," Hale said. "You did good." Reggie's throat tightened. "What happens now?" Reggie asked. Hale's eyes flicked to Garrett Whitaker, who was still staring like he'd just realized who he hired. "Now," Hale said, "your life gets complicated." Reggie swallowed. Because he knew Hale was right. No matter what he'd done today, the street would hear about it. And the street doesn't forgive. That night, Reggie sat on his mother's couch again. Lena was in her room, resting, healing. The TV was on, but muted. Reggie stared at the dark screen like he could see his future in it. His phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. He opened it. "You think you left?" Reggie's hands went cold. Another message came through. "Crossroads got two directions. You picked one." Reggie stared at the words until they blurred. He didn't know if it was L Train. He didn't know if it was one of the young dealers. He didn't know if it was somebody he forgot. But the message was clear. The town had seen him choose. He stood up and walked to his mother's bedroom door. He knocked softly. "Ma," he called. A pause. Then her voice, tired but present. "Yeah?" Reggie swallowed. "I'm gonna move you," he said. "Somewhere safer." Silence. Then Lena spoke, quiet. "You got money for that?" Reggie stared at the wall, jaw tight. "I'll get it," he said. Lena's voice softened slightly, the smallest crack in all that hardness. "You trying now?" she said. Reggie's eyes burned. "Yeah," he whispered. "I'm trying." He stepped away from her door. He looked out the front window at the street. Hagerstown sat out there, in the dark, breathing slow. The town he thought would stay the same. The town that had changed without him. The town that remembered him anyway. Reggie Cole stood in that dim living room, with his hands at his sides and his heart heavy. And he understood something he hadn't understood before prison. Getting out wasn't the finish line. It was the starting gun. He didn't know what redemption would cost. He didn't know if he'd survive long enough to earn it. But he knew this. He was back in Hagerstown. And Hagerstown was back in him. He stared into the dark and spoke the words like a vow. "Not again," he said. And outside, the town stayed quiet. Like it was listening. Like it was waiting to see if he meant it. This concludes Story 1, The Walk Back In. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe.